making your first feature does open a good amount of doors. And so we got a bit of a following on Reddit, and that's where the majority of our audience is. You are captain. People are pulling you from all directions. If you fall, everything falls. We had a van that took everybody. The van crashed 3 times. No one fucking knows what they're doing. Take comfort in that. Being charismatic, being confident is a skill that you have to train like a muscle in the gym. The key is sales. Because 100K, 200K to these folks are nothing. Like, you'd be stupid walking into any of these meetings without a waterfall structure, without a distribution plan, without a line item budget of your day-to-day, without legal, without all the numbers.
Welcome back to another episode of the First Act Break podcast, the show where we dive into the art and business of breaking into the film industry. Today we are chatting with the director of Trigger Happy, a debut feature film that's recently secured international distribution about the journey of bringing a first feature to life. We're pleased to welcome Tiffany Kim Stevens. Thank you for joining us, Tiffany.
Woo! Yeah!
Thanks for coming to our show.
Thanks for having me. Go me.
No, we're so excited. So, from what I know, you worked with a writer on this film and you made this film, and it took you almost like 5 years now, right? So when you had the idea of this feature film, how did you know this was the idea you're going to spend the next 5 years of your life doing?
It really, and this is a very woo-woo thing to say, it just clicks. You just know. You know this is a world that you want to live in, and you know these are characters you want to get to know over the course of however long you're going to need to know them. And I cannot explain beyond just purely intuitive.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really all it was.
Did you consider like the commercial appeal, quote unquote, of this thing at all when you're making it in the beginning?
In the beginning, not at all. Only when we got to the marketing portion of it did I really think about commercial viability, but on the front end, not at all.
Wow. So for someone who's trying to do something similar, making their first feature film, what are some ways that they can find that idea that their whole body tells them to make?
Go and experience as much as you can. Talk to as many people as you want. Practice the art of small talk. Go see things, go do things, go smell things, go hear things. Go explore and be grounded in the present moment. Because at some point, something's going to click. And all your experience that you are motioning through life with is going to come together in one really awesome idea that you simply cannot force. And it will just happen. Because the more you force it, the more I can only speak for myself, the more I force an idea, the more I tend to exit out quicker. I don't want to hang out with these characters. I don't want to hang out with this world. I don't want to be in this environment anymore, artistically, creatively. So it just, you have to just go out and explore and talk to people. I think humans are fascinating. You know, when you're in line for coffee, chat with the person in front of you and ask them, hey, what are you grabbing today? What are you drinking? What's your day to day? And then they might say something super fascinating. And then you're like, wow, I never thought of that drink. And, you know, just go explore, be a human, be an NPC, be all of it.
Yeah.
Totally agree. And I've heard that, great ideas almost whisper to you. So I was wondering, how did this idea whisper in the back of your head? And how did you go about making sure that this was the one that, all the whispers came together and became a full screenplay?
Given that it was my first feature, I really wanted to explore the first humans that I had ever met who just so happened to be my parents. And I think as an only child, you find yourself watching your parents a lot, observing them, being privy to their lives, and they're your guiding soul. You know, they're the people who are guiding you through life. And you think, oh, they're perfect in every way. And then suddenly, as you get older, you start to see the cracks. You start to see the dysfunction. You start to see, oh, they're really dimensional human beings. They're not just mom and dad. They are fully experienced, sondered human beings. And I felt it only right that my first feature was about the first people I'd ever met. And then the
Mm,
spark of inspiration to make it the wild, dark comedy satire that it is came from purely like an entertainment perspective where I did get to like experience multiple things in life that I put together into this wild fictional narrative. But the core start was, yeah, the parentals.
right. Gotcha. And I know that you worked with a writer and the writer wrote this into a screenplay. So what was that process like? Did you give him like an outline of what you're thinking? Did he come up with part of the outline? How was that collaboration like?
I wrote the first draft,
Oh, gotcha.
almost bullet pointed scenes. So I had an
Uh,
idea of the world that I wanted to live in and the beats that I wanted to hit and the nuggets of characters. And that was about it.
mhm,
It felt like an index page of a textbook, if that makes sense.
mm,
And so
mhm,
Daniel had a read of the index page and was like, this is really funny. This could be very dark and very funny and very art house and very culty and very niche. I'm game. And the features that
mm.
he had done before, he's such an incredible storyteller and has such a wild sense of humor that it just made sense in this weird abstract way to have him take the screenplay, the index page, and make it a screenplay.
Right. And were you guys like friends at all before he started writing all these drafts for you?
No, we were not actually. We knew of each other from film school, naturally at SC, and
Mm,
we had a lot of mutual friends. And it was actually one of the mutual friends that said, "You should talk to Daniel Moya because this is very much an idea that he would love." And that's how it went.
mm. Gotcha. Like, how is it? Like, what does it take to convince a writer who's, obviously out of school already working to spend so much of their time dedicated to a feature?
Well, an idea, a really good idea that resonates, first of all. An idea
Mhm,
that that writer wants to live in, breathe in, work in, explore, first of all, and
mhm,
also a really solid trajectory as to what the plan is going to be, right? And what that
mm,
from the sort of workflow business end looks like too. Because I'm not just pitching creative, I'm also pitching a timeline and a business proposal and a trajectory for where we want this to go because we want to bring this to life. And the steps it takes
mhm.
to bring to life is huge, huge feat. So it was very much a hey, yeah, this is a cool idea to work on, but also there's trajectory here. This is a real thing that we
Gotcha.
can make.
So
Right.
you were confident this was going to be made from the day one almost.
Yeah,
Wow.
blind confidence, but confidence nonetheless.
Well, you need that for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Speaking of like
mhm.
trajectory, team building is one of the most important parts of bringing a feature to life, a short, nonetheless a feature. So how do you go about bringing people on from all departments?
I very much take the approach of who are the most innovative filmmakers that are within my reach right now, that are also my age, that are hungry and passionate. Who are the filmmakers that have incredible communication skills, that have no problems, saying how they feel, expressing their doubts, their criticisms, and filmmakers also who have a business sensibility. Because so much of
Mhm.
being a department head, at least, and those are the people that I directly work with as the director, is being a leader of your own startup. Think about it. So think about a film as its own company. You got the C suite, which is the director, the writer, the producer, the EPs, and then you got the management team, which are all the department heads. And so I work directly with those
Mhm.
department heads, and those department heads have their own departments themselves. They have their own players. So incredible leadership skills, communication skills, efficient workflow and optimization and operations is also really important. So if I can sit with a DP and we can shoot the shit about, RoboCop for hours, A, that's already great. Great news. Great news, we're cinephiles, we love movies. B, can we shoot the shit about workflow? What does your workflow look like? Do you use Slack? Do you use Google Drive? How do you go about your lighting plots? How do you go about hiring folks? What are your communication styles on set? So that's really important too.
Gotcha. So let's say, okay, I'm you. I just got my first idea. I brought on a writer who's talented. We have a draft going. who's the first person to bring onto the team after that?
Producer.
Okay. And how do you choose a producer for a project like this? Would you want someone who you've worked with before, or would you want someone, because obviously it's your first feature film, do you want a producer that's done a feature already? And how many producers would you typically bring on at first?
It really depends on the scale of your film. You know, if you're
Mhm.
making something that is multiple location, big VFX, huge, you want producers that work in the genre that you work in. So this being like a
Mm.
cult indie feature, I didn't think we needed more than one producer because ultimately Daniel and I were sort of associates EPs anyways. So we can make the core
Mhm.
trio was what mattered on the front end. Someone who
Mhm.
understands budgets, someone who understands paperwork, like in terms of insurance, taxes, accounting, someone who understands sales, distro, trajectory, all that good stuff. So it's a lot of administration work and a lot of bookkeeping essentially. So we on this end we really knew we needed a producer that was uh, the bookie essentially.
Mm. Right. So, okay, you get your producer. Who's the next person you're bringing on?
EPs, investors.
Right. And that leads us to what I wanted to talk a lot about actually is the financing side of things. Because I mean, that's the problem that's keeping most people from making their first features is the money. So for this film, I believe you spent around $500,000 and you raised that through private equity. And I just wonder, like, who are the people you're pitching to? How do you find these people?
Well, the first thing we did was we got a sales agent. That was a referral from someone at USC. And our sales
Mhm.
agent essentially said to us, you know, Tiff, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a first time feature. You are a woman of color. It's 2019, you know, it's not as progressive as it is now. And your budget's tiny. This is not
Mhm.
enough for my clients to invest because we're not going to be able to get star appeal, therefore not going to get pre-sale. So up front, I'm going to let you know, like you're going to have a hard time pitching to production companies. I will make the introductions and you will pitch, but I want you to know it's a tough hill to climb. And I said, hey, let's
Mm.
do it. Let's do it first. So we went through the proper channels first. We pitched to all these production companies that were sort of, you know, festival feeders, first time filmmaker kind of pools, second time filmmaker pools. And then COVID hit and
Right.
everything shut down. No one was investing in anything. You know, we got pitches. We got in the rooms, but it was just lock and key. Nope, 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 nope. Not only are you first time feature director and you don't have the portfolio, the money's not enough. Oh, the world's gonna end. So oh sorry, gotta like take care of my family first. And it's like, yeah, for sure. For sure. So we said we have to adapt. That's where we said, you know, the world's ending. We have to adapt. If we're gonna die, we're gonna die making this feature. It's gonna happen. We have to do it. We have to do it.
Right.
So we decided to look at other first time feature directors and see what their strategies were. And one was Damien Chazelle that made a proof of concept for Whiplash. And so we went back to the drawing board and we said, let's write a short film. Let's write a proof of concept. And let's make sure this isn't a short. Let's make sure this is a persuasive piece of cinema, a marketing tool that we can then keep the train rolling on. So we had Daniel write a 12-minute, no, 8 minutes, somewhere like 8 to 12 minute proof of concept that we
Mm.
shot out of our own savings. We pooled our own financing together to make this short, this proof, and now we had this tool. We had this really concrete visual tool to show everybody, hey, now are we still gonna make this movie? And what had happened was we had basically gone through all the proper channels, and so the next move was to go to random people with a lot of money to blow. And the first one was I just so happened to be taking some yoga classes in Calabasas. And as I do, small talk. Oh, have you taken this class before? Do you take TRX? Like what, you know, you're shooting the shit. You're shooting the shit, you're small talking, you're getting to know these lovely fucking people, and sooner or later, you're a film director, you're making a movie, how exciting! Can I see what you're working on? And there we go. The first round of money comes in. And
Wow.
then they're excited about it because now they have stake in the game, right? And they want this to work. So now
Mm.
we get referred on to other people and more people. And then we hit another wall. We're like, okay, we've raised X amount of money. We still got to get to 500,000. Where do we go next? Where do we go next? And
Mm.
it just so happened that I was chatting with a few people from my film frat at the time, and DKA, shout out to DKA,
Mhm.
and they said
Right.
you should go to Berkeley, dude. You should fly up to Berkeley and hang out with some of the folks up there because tech money might be your next best bet. Because what,
Mm.
100K, 200K to these folks are nothing, right? Like all these VCs out there. I'm like, yeah. So I flew my butt up to the Bay Area and I snuck into a bunch of parties and I just so happened to, and we were party bouncing, house party bouncing, and I ended up at a VC party with all these beta tech dudes that were just like, I think it was it was super wild. It was one of those like, I'm open, I'm designing my life, let's go with the flow, let's experience it all. And then I just start pitching and they're all so excited because it's not an app, it's a movie. And
Mm.
we get leads and that's how it ends up, and we secure the financing and we make the damn thing.
Right. Wow. That is such a journey. Oh my God.
It was a long journey.
I yeah, I wonder, like, to these people, what's the incentive for them to give the money? Like, what were the list of things you told them that made them want to give their own money to this project?
Well, there were three major things. Look, I'm not just going in pitching the creative, right? You have to back
Right.
up your venture with a business proposal. Like you'd be
Hmm.
stupid walking into any of these meetings without a waterfall structure, without a distribution plan, without a line item budget of your day to day, without legal, without, all the numbers, right? So first of all, get your deck and business proposal tight. That's step number
Mm.
one. Number two, we were lucky, and I it was a real fluke where if you shot over COVID, it was a COVID thing. If you shot your movie in California, 75% of your movie in California, you were up for a tax deduction. So that was a huge incentive
Mm.
too, where we said, hey, not only do we have this business proposal, but if you invest in this project, that qualifies as a tax deduction. So why pay the IRS when you could be a patron of the arts instead? Boom. They
Oh,
loved
okay.
that. They loved that.
Yeah.
We love that. They love that. That was a really cool thing that California had during COVID, which is no longer in effect. As we know, California is dealing with a lot of, government tax film bullshit right now. That was
Hmm.
our second in. And our third in was, not only are you supporting young, upcoming filmmakers of the next generation, you're providing jobs. You're providing a
Mm.
tremendous amount of jobs for people that in a generation that has been royally fucked over. This is an opportunity
Mm.
to right the wrongs that your generation has, unfortunately, maybe not intentionally, kind of screwed over. And then on top of that, you get to come to a film set. You get to make a movie. How many people get to make movies? Think about it,
Yeah.
And so the day that Marissa actually came was Investor Day. So that was like the
Oh,
visitors day.
gotcha.
So that was a sort of like sales package that we went with.
Wow.
That's awesome. And I'm curious, so you were pitching to so many different kinds of demographics. You know, you were in Calabasas, you were in Berkeley. Do you have one pitch deck for everyone, or do you tailor make it so that it fits the kind of people that you're pitching to?
We have one pitch deck and one business proposal that's sort of standardized that everyone can sort of understand. But the key is sales, right? And that's why I say go out and experience things and talk to as many people as possible, because your charisma and your social skills are really the connecting point, right? I'm not going to talk to a bunch of yoga moms about, cracked coding engineers. I'm going to talk to them about the latest, restaurant that they're going to, or like what incredible schools that their kids are at, or maybe like the latest Birkin bag collection that's coming out in fall. These are things that you gotta just naturally have because you've met so many people and you've diversified and you are just a great person that knows how to sell and you know how to talk. And when I'm talking to, tech people, I'm not going to talk to them about Birkin bags unless they're carrying one, you know. I'm going to talk to them about what's happened on in The Verge because I read that article this morning, or what's going on in, the metaverse with these weird 8-year-olds doing stand up. Like you cater your sales pitch to the people you're talking to, but the documents will always be the same because it's standardized.
Mm. How did you get good at selling yourself and your projects? Like, what were some ways that improved your ability of that over time?
Talk to anyone. Talk, practice, because being social is not
Hmm.
something you're born with. Being charismatic,
Right.
being confident is a skill that you have to train like a muscle in the gym, right?
Mm.
When you're in class and lecture, hey, how's it going? What are you working on? Oh, cool. Like, do you want to maybe grab coffee after this just to talk about the class? Talk to anyone, everywhere, all the time. Practice the art of rejection. That's a huge thing that I did in college too, where I was like, I'm going to go up and talk to people. And if I get rejected, fine, bulletproof, you know?
Wow. Yes. I need to get better at that. That's awesome though. Um, and you brought up earlier about like the waterfall and everything with the business side of things. I wonder like how did you set up, like the business plan and the waterfall stuff? Like how did you know how much they were going to be able to get from this project?
Talking to other producers and other fellow
Hmm.
USC alumni who had done this before. And that's the beauty of being able to, when you're pitching to producers, they might not necessarily, sign their name and want to take on this project because they're doing bigger, better things, but then they become great mentors where they can guide you through certain
Mm.
things, right? So I'm like, hey, I'm working at this budget in this genre. Where do you think this is going to fit? And they might say, oh, I think this will be great on like Shutter, or this might be great on Tubi. And here's the structure of what we know from how Tubi operates from a distro level or Shutter. So being able to talk to as many people within the USC network and also many producers and asking for advice, but not just going in generally with like, hey, I'd like to just pick your brain. They're going to be like, about what? Go in with specific
Mm.
things. Hey, I'm working on a business proposal. I'm working on this waterfall structure. Here's the genre of my movie. Here's in a perfect world where I'd like to see it live. Maybe it's HBO, maybe it's Netflix, right? Say it's Netflix. Do you have any advice about what that protocol and what that workflow looks like and what Netflix is looking for? And if they have an answer, great. And if they don't, they might refer you to someone who might help.
Gotcha. Right. So when you were making this, you were reaching out to a lot of people directly. Did you ever have like a platform where strangers, people that might not know who you are and you don't know them, could like contribute like equity wise?
Yeah, I think in the early days, we were on this website called Slated or something like that, where it was sort of this nonprofit. Uh, we put out the project on there and people could donate if they wanted to, but that never worked out because we didn't put any marketing efforts towards it. Like we didn't
Mm,
necessarily see this as being a crowd-funded project, so we didn't
I
market
see.
that. But there was for a minute there we were like, oh, let's just put it on there, see if anyone does anything, but we did not.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see. So if you were to like raise money, let's say you're making Trigger Happy today, and from everything you've learned, how would you finance this thing differently?
I probably wouldn't. I'd probably do the exact same thing just because it's the
Uh-huh.
first one. And the first one is hard because the jump from short to feature is huge, huge jump. And the probability of a studio or a production company giving you money is lower compared to going to independent financing. Um,
Mm.
so I would probably do the exact same thing.
Gotcha. Did you get like the financing from like individual people, or did you also do it from like venture capital companies or something like that?
Individual people. Some of them happen to be VCs, but it
Mm,
was them putting in their own.
I see. Oh, that's so interesting. And making a feature film, the budget could range from so many different levels. You can make a feature for a few thousand, or hundreds of millions. How did you end up with 500,000 as your budget?
Well, we wanted to play it pretty safe for this first one, actually. So we figured if we're going to individual people that are just going to give us money, We want to make sure that it's low enough that we can make a movie, but also like solid enough where we can get a return on that investment.
Mm,
Because I think once you start
gotcha.
hitting the millions game, then you are in a different workflow and a different structure. And you do need star appeal. You do need, a Prodco to support you. But on the front end, we were just like, yeah, let's just get this money. Let's just make it
Mm-hmm.
somehow.
Right. What was the plan if you were maybe not able to get 100, like 500K? Like if you were only able to get 100K, like would you have, tweaked the story, or would you have like kept going with the financing?
I would have kept going. There was no option to fail. It was just, let's just keep going. We're already like in an
Gotcha.
apocalypse. The world's ending, let's bullet through this because there's no other choice. I've committed to a degree in film. I've committed to a career in film. I've committed my life to film. This is it. This is what they talk about when film is difficult, where entertainment is a difficult place to be. This is the kind of challenge and rat race and hill that I need to climb. And this is all part of the adventure and the failure and the mini wins and the losses. Like this is it. This is the filmmaker experience. So we keep going.
Mm,
That's
gotcha.
really encouraging to hear. How do
Yes.
you work with your producer to do all of this? I mean, it sounds like you're really involved in the process. So, are you in every meeting with your producer? Are there meetings that you take on by yourself? Maybe the producer on their own? How do you go about making sure that everyone's on the same page in
Yeah.
terms of financing?
Well, for the sake of this first film, I really wanted the EP credits. So think of me as like the top dog. I wanted majority share ownership of the project. So I said to everybody, hey, since I want majority share, my name's going to be on this. My name's, I want ownership. I'm going to be the one fundraising and financing, right? So I'm going to be the one out there taking the meetings, and I want to direct this. So I'm going to go out and do it. And so essentially that's how it was structured, where I would go get the money. Once the money was in the bank, then our producer Kyle would handle it from there.
Gotcha.
But that's not always how it's done, naturally. It depends on the way you set up your core team.
Mm,
Hmm.
totally.
How
Yeah.
do you go about balancing, the story you're trying to tell, the script you came up with, the craft of it, the quote unquote director stuff of it with the pitching of it and the business side of it and the financing of it? How do you keep the two almost in a healthy relationship with each other?
Well, there's really interesting. The beauty of the filmmaking process is that there's structures in place for that. So you're in development, you're in business mode. Then you hit, pre pro all the way to post. You're in director mode. You're in like creative mode again, and you can shut everything off. You can shut the business off because you're rolling. Then once you picture
Mhm.
lock, then you're going into festivals. Maybe it's a little bit of business again. And then you're in marketing
Right.
mode, which then you get to be a marketing director, which is super fun. And then you're back into EP, business mode when you're going through sales, distro, and acquisitions. So there's
Mm,
ways to there's like different facets of the entertainment, the filmmaking process where you can totally switch on and off based on all of it. And
mm.
um, at least in the development side of things, it was very much 60% business, 40% creative. And you have to be able to adapt and change as you go along. But the minute you get the money in the bank and you're greenlit and you have a start date, you are fully focused on the creative.
Right. Wow.
That's great.
Yeah.
And when you hit production, which you did, what was it like allocating all the budget so that, you can make the best film possible within the constraints that you had in terms of budget?
Yeah, that was where Kyle came into play. So when I switched my hat from EP mode to director mode, I didn't want to see a single dime. I didn't want to see a single spreadsheet, a single statement, nothing. I didn't want to. I was like, Kyle, now it's your time to shine as our badass producer. And you tell me if it's a yay or a nay. And that's about it. And I respect the budget and I respect the investors and I respect the studio per se, enough to stay within the constraints of our budget. So if Kyle said, yo, we cannot do this right now, valid, because I respect our investors too much.
Mm.
What was the biggest challenge that you faced during production in terms of budgeting? Was there anything that you had to overcome um, throughout the
Our
process?
biggest challenge financially during production was Okay, it's a little embarrassing, and y'all gonna be like, "You guys are not professional," but yeah, we learn. We learn. Um, so on set, every day we had everybody drive to crew parking, and then they would get bussed over to set. And
Mhm.
so we had 3 weeks of production, and we had a van that took everybody. The van crashed 3 times.
Wow.
Um, yeah, unfortunately. So our transport department, LA, these roads, so that was a huge financial challenge, given that we had to dip into our contingency in order to cover the copay for this truck 3 times.
That's crazy. Like it crashed like into like a tree or like what does that mean?
Well, the first time I think someone made like a left turn and they got swiped. The second time I think I'm not sure, they like backed up into something, and the third time I don't remember. I was in director mode. I just was like, I don't even want to know. Like, but that was that was
Right.
and then like also thank God for insurance. So it's like we had insurance cover part of it, and then the rest came out of contingency. So that was tough
Gotcha.
because that
Wow.
contingency, we wanted to save, that a little extra money for marketing down the road if we had it.
Right.
But you know.
Gotcha.
Well, Kyle and you handled it pretty well, I would say, because the film is excellent.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
In terms of marketing, though, and in terms of getting the film in front of the right audience, what was it like submitting to festivals and coming up with strategy? Did you guys have it beforehand, or did you guys adjust it once the picture is locked so that you have a clearer picture of what the movie is, so that you can target specific festivals?
We picture locked first. Yeah, we didn't base the edit on any specific festival, because for us, the festivals are incredible in the sense they're great marketing, right? Like, if you can get the Sundances of the world, like double thumbs up, you're good. But for us, we really wanted to prove to our investors that we could make a movie and then sell it, right? We didn't. Our goal wasn't to go highfalutin awards accolades. It was, can we make a movie and sell it? And
Mhm.
with that, we had a very tight marketing festival budget. So we went with the intention, okay, these festivals that we go to are marketplaces where sales agents go. And can we get a sales agent or a distributor to come to the screening during that time to watch the movie? Because if you're going for Sundance, that's a whole campaign in itself. You're going for South by, that's a whole separate campaign. The big Tribeca, TIFF, those are campaigns where you need studio backing. You need a CAA, you need a WME, you need film commissions to help boost you in that regards. And we were such small peanuts, and on a $500,000 budget, you don't have that kind of extra mill to be able to blow on all of that. So we were very
Mhm.
strategic in the sense that, okay, can we get to Oscar qualifiers, which we know are marketplaces, and can we get a sales agent to rep us from there and then take us to like the Cannes marketplace to get international? So that's where we were very intentional about um, our premieres. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
At what point did you guys secure a sales agent? I'm curious, so that the international sales or pre-sales could happen.
Yeah. So the schedule was, we picture locked in August 23, and that's, down for the fall festivals. And so the minute we picture locked, we got a sales agent. So we started sending the film to as many people as possible in distro and sales. And then one of our sales agent, Todd, was like, this cult, it's a cult movie. It's a cult classic in the making. Let's go. And he took it on and said, look, I think we can shop this around at Cannes and then see where it goes. And then we premiered at Cinequest in 2024, something like early spring, and we had secured domestic distribution about a month after that.
Wow. What was it like that 1 month in between? Did you guys like shop it around? Were there multiple parties interested? how did you guys make the deal happen?
Yeah, so the best part about film festivals is the amount of marketing material that you can just get, right? You get the red carpets, the backdrops, the interviews, like all that is such important assets for your press kit, right? Like that's that
Mhm.
whole social media marketing galore influencer type digital content so important. Like I cannot emphasize enough. So we had all of that press kit which helped us essentially boost those conversations. And so we were it was between three offers that we got, and then we went with Gravitas Ventures, who we love now, that's been acquired by another company, and they just gave us the best deal that we could get.
Are you
Nice.
involved in hearing all these deals, or is Kyle more the person who? Oh, okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
Kyle
How
was
did you go about?
definitely the point
Mhm.
person, but we were all CC'd on every email, just so everybody was CC'd on everything, so we just get absolute overview on what the terms and the back and forths were.
Mhm.
Gotcha. So making of this film, obviously took a while and it's a big venture as it's a feature film. What was the pre-production like when you decided to bring on a casting director? Like why did you want to bring on a casting director versus you casting yourself? And what was it like casting these actors?
This is a personal preference because I really dislike the casting process. It gives me such a disgusting power trip, and I
Mm.
really don't like saying no to people. So it's more of like a personality thing where I'm like, oh, this person, this actor is putting their heart and soul out on camera and really diving into this character, and I just don't think they're right for the part. I cannot bring myself to say no to this person. I'm going to hide behind a casting director and have them
Gotcha.
have them do it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Where did you find a casting director? Was it also a USC classmate?
It was a referral from Daniel, the writer, who had worked with her in the past.
Gotcha. And you were watching, I believe, a lot of the self tapes that you got for all these characters. What was it like choosing between different actors? Because obviously, for a self tape and what they actually can bring to the table could be very different. So how were you able to pick them, based on watching their tapes?
I'm a really big fan of technical training. So, a big
Mm,
early conversation in casting we had is because we know this is going to be a comedy ultimately, like, do we want
mm,
comedians or comedic actors? And that was one of the
mm,
early conversations of deciphering, okay, what are the different comedic acting styles and what do we want to lean towards versus, like, do we want more of a stand up kind of performer? And
mm,
very much lean towards comedic actors because that's where dark comedy comes, where it's like we play it straight and it just so happens that the situation's funny. So if we have actors that can play straight but also understand the comedic sensibilities, then we got ourselves a good dark comedy. Um, and when I'm interfacing in callbacks, what I really, really care about is, yeah, technique. Who are their go tos? Are they Meisner people? Are they Stanislavski people? Are they Brechtian people? How do they like to get into character? And so much of my job as a director is to understand all those techniques and to be able to communicate in ways that they understand in terms of performance and getting into character. So a big thing
mm.
was working with Tyler, who was George, our lead. We went through the monologue and we did beat by beat. And there were moments where I said, hey, can we add a little bit of Grotowski here in the terms of the nuance of your facial expressions, and can we do a little bit of Stanislavski in terms of the vibrato of your voice? So for me, working with actors is, are you trained? That's one. Are you educated and trained? And do you love the craft
Mhm.
of what you do? Versus, it's the idea of like, love yourself in the arts. it's
Mm,
it's like there's this say that it's like, don't love yourself in the arts, love the art in yourself, if that makes sense. And it goes
mm,
back to ego. If you like yourself, that you want to see yourself on screen and you want to like get all the views and the likes and all the follows and the satisfaction and the glory of fame, then like I'm sorry that like we just don't click in terms of on like a philosophical ethical scale when it comes to how I like to like operate as a director. But if you love diving
mm,
into character, you love and you're passionate about acting, and you find the art within you, then I'm more likely to work with you.
mm.
How do
Gotcha.
you know when someone's right for the role and not someone else?
How they speak about the character, how they speak about the person that they're trying to portray. And it's so, I know it's such a
Mm.
vague answer, but it comes down to the level of just like, they don't necessarily need to resonate or relate to the character because that's, you know, they could be playing a villain that's a horrible person. But it's
Mhm.
being able to intellectualize their psychological decisions. So if they're you know
Mm.
if they're like, oh, the reason why George would walk from this side of the camera to this side of the camera is because A, B, C, D, that's more likely to make me want to work with you versus like, oh, I'm just going to move to this side of this side because you told me to. I want to
Mm.
know why. And if an actor can answer why the character makes the decisions that they do and have it be a collaborative conversation in that regards, then let's go. That's a professional actor.
Mm.
That's great. I'm curious, did you make changes to specific characterization after you've cast the roles and base it on the actors that are portraying them, or was it more still very much to the script that you had already locked?
There was some room for change. I mean, the dialogue was pretty locked, but there were moments of, let's take, you know, Elsha, who plays Annie, who's our other lead. She's so fucking funny. She has such her prowess comes from her physical comedy, right? And physical comedy is one of those things that translates, you know, all over the world. And there's a scene where, spoilers, where she's in a headgear after a really horrifying skydiving accident, and she's walking across the screen in her fucking headgear to water plants. And I knew from that moment where this needs to be funny enough where you can't help but laugh, but also so painful to watch because this woman is suffering watering plants. Like, it's like you don't want to laugh, but you kind of can't help it. And to be able to pull off that middle ground of physical comedy of this is painful to watch, but also fucking hilarious is very, very difficult. I personally could never, but that was a moment where we discussed that and she was able to pull that off so well, which originally was not in the script at all.
Mm.
So
Mm.
having moments where we can like bring that physicality in was really nice. But I will say you need to be, and at least only how I operate, again, I can only speak for myself, in order to be able to give yourself room to improvise, you have to be so rigid with your structure and your schedule.
Mm. Wait, so when you were trying to finance this film, did you start pre-production while you were financing, or was it like after you got all the money, then you started doing the casting and everything, like pre-production wise?
Yeah, after we got the money.
Okay, gotcha. So after you get the money, you get your actors. What's the next step of making a feature?
You get your money, you get your actors, you gather your department heads, you find a really cool office to start prepping, which was
Mm.
really fun. Yeah, to have everybody in the room together with a massive whiteboard and just being able to be like, all right, we're making a movie, let's go.
How long did that whole process take, like the prep process?
We did 2 months of pre pro, 3 weeks of shooting, and then
Mm.
4 to 5 months of post.
Gotcha. I mean, 3 weeks of shooting a feature film isn't like that long at all. How did you work with the schedule to make it so like fast?
Well, first of all, we knew we had a budget. That was it. There was no room
Mm.
for reshoots or any of that. And that's where your first AD is truly king. Yeah.
Right. Did you when you were pre-production, did you have the storyboard or were you just like going off of like shooting coverage?
Well, how Shawnee and I like to work is that she decided to do a shot list instead of a storyboard. We didn't feel the need to do a storyboard because it just didn't work for us in our workflow. If people want to do it,
Uh,
absolutely go forth. But you need a shot list. And
yeah.
that was something, that document, part of the workflow, was what our first AD worked off of. That's what our second AD worked off of. That's what, you know, Kyle worked off of, our producer. So we really needed some sort of concrete document to get that in motion. And then we also had deadlines for that. You know, we said, hey, by this time and this date, we need shot list draft 1 locked in, shot list draft 2 locked in, you know? So that's how we went
Right.
about it.
Gotcha. And throughout you were rehearsing with your actors too, right?
We had one table read and then it was all on set. And so because
Oh wow. Okay.
we were tight on budget and schedule, I basically said to Hunter, our first AD, this is how much rehearsal time I personally want backed into the schedule. And this is how much improv time I want. And this is how much time we need for whatever else. So being able to
Wow. Okay.
preemptively plan all of this ahead of time is so important. Yeah. So those 3 weeks were seamless, except for the van crash.
Gotcha. I mean, how was like baking the rehearsal time into the production? Did that like do you feel like that limited your ability to explore things the time wise? Or do you think that was actually enough to do it on the fly?
It was enough to do on the fly because they're already in their costumes. They're already on set in their environments. They're already there. So it's faster to be able to integrate them into their motions and to their scenes. You know, when you do a table read or you're doing beat sheets or scene breakdown prior to being on set, that's good. That's well and good. And you get a lot of good context. And if you're in theater, that's even better. But it's not
Mm,
enough because it's like reading a textbook, right? You can read a textbook and then you can go out into the world, or you can go out into the world and be like, all right, this is it. This is it. I'm here. I'm live. I'm going. Let's go. And the benefit of being on set is, yeah, costume, world building, all that, but it's instinct, which is so much of what you need for on camera acting because you have the camera right here. You're not on a stage where you can kind of play big and make small decisions. Like the camera sees everything and you want it to be believable. And so that's why I was really keen on, yeah, let's have this be on the fly instinct. Rehearse, go, shoot, take.
wow. Did you shoot this film in order? Like or how was it like mixing it up for the schedule?
Yeah, we did not shoot in order. We shot per location. So we did the house and then we did the outdoor and then we did the skydive and then we did all the soundstage stuff and then the green screen stuff last. So we shot per location.
In an ideal world, how would you have scheduled the shoot if there were no limitations in terms of scheduling?
I probably would do the same thing. I mean, I think it just makes sense
Mm,
to shoot per location. Not only because it helps with the consistency of the acting when you're in the same location for a certain amount of time so they can be in that emotional headspace. You know, because if you're moving back and
Mm,
forth all the time, that's really jarring for them because they're already working on different parts of the scene. So if we can have like a sense of stability and consistency in that location is great. Also for camera and for art, it's really important that they live in the same space for the same reasons, for that sense of stability. So
mm.
I'm a big fan of let's stay in one location for as long as possible. Let's try not doing any fucking company moves.
Right. What were some things you learned on this set that made you realize like how I can do so many days so efficiently? Like what were some things you did, that you it made you realize, oh, if I did this, it'll save X amount of time.
There was none of that, to be honest. It was very much like we're adhering to what we could do. I think what was actually really difficult and something that I didn't really know to do was
Mm,
taking care of myself because as a director you are captain. People are pulling you from all directions. If you fall, everything falls. So
mm,
I used a lot of like vices to keep me awake. So like when I would be on set, I would caffeinate up so much. I'd get so jittery. And then, midway through the day, I'd have my lunch break and I'd be like smoking cigarettes just to keep it going. And then in the evening, I'd be so jacked up. I would have to take so much like NyQuil to go to sleep. And then I'd be groggy in the morning and that cycle continued. And I really didn't feed myself much. And I was like so unhealthy. It was so bad. And I think, oh my God, these guys like Scorsese and Ridley Scott are doing this shit until they're 80. Like, how are they sustaining? It's like being an athlete. You're on your feet for 12 hours. You're go, 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 go. I did not foresee or had the knowledge of the importance of taking care of myself and training my body physically to be able to go into that. And this was just 3 weeks and I was dead. Dude, I can't imagine
mm.
doing months of this. So
Right.
what I wish and what I will be doing for the next one is physically gearing myself up by hitting the gym, taking the supplements, drinking water, having a good self-care routine because months at a time, 12-hour days, 6 days a week on your feet is some maverick athletic shit that, You got to be prepped for it.
Right. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're prepped for it, but how would you do it on the set? Like on during production, how could you better, I guess, take care of your health?
Yeah, food. The first thing is like the importance of breakfast, and not doing caffeine on an empty stomach. Like in a perfect world, right? As I'm moving into the next one, I want to I want to walk on set. I want to have something nutritious, some greens, some vitamins, a smoothie, and then caffeinate up after my stomach's full, and then I'm good for the day. For my lunch break, I'm not touching carbs, not because I'm like anti-carbs, but because that shit pulls you down for the rest of the day. So like give me something healthy, give me salmon, give me like a beef bowl, like just really, really good nutritious shit and like supplements. Give me that magnesium, give me that zinc, give me that B12. And then, by the end of the day, go home, sit, and then have like a nourishing soup, have
Mm,
something that will make me feel good by the end of the day. And oh my God, I would stretch, dude. On my lunch breaks, I would want to go for walks, literally stretch, relax, meditate. Like it's,
mm,
things like that, making sure that I keep myself healthy throughout the day because so much is relying on the director. If the
mm,
director is taking care of themselves,
Mm.
everybody's taking care of themselves. And prior to even starting this process, I remember I had Daniel had a blood test done because he had done features before. So he knew to
mm.
take a blood test before going into the next one. He knew, and I was like, "Why are you taking a blood test, bro? Like, what the fuck?" And he's like, "Trust me, trust me." And so he was constantly monitoring his health throughout the process. And he was the writer, He was sitting down more than I was, and he was still like, I need to monitor my heart rate, and he was on it. He had the watch and everything. And
Right.
I wish I'd paid attention more in that regards. And I was like, blood test? What do you mean? Little did I know. Yeah.
Tiffany, I'm curious, what was it like the day after you wrapped principal production? What did you do to reset?
I didn't. We offloaded the footage, we
Mm.
transcoded, and we immediately sent off to Carter, who to start post. Because post is difficult in the sense that you're on your feet 12 hours a day going, and then suddenly you're sitting down for 8 hours a day in a dark room with no sunlight. That is a very stark and difficult thing to go through physically because now you're all fit, you're going, and then you're sitting down on your ass in a dark room and you don't know what time it is. You're crashing midway, so it's very difficult. That transition was really difficult, but we had to go quickly because we wanted to make these festival deadlines. So we were like, all right, immediately transcode. Whilst everybody in production, like the department heads, art, lighting, camera, makeup, they were all celebrating and like doing their wrap party. I was like, yeah, let's get these hard drives over. Let's get them mailed ASAP. So there really was no
Right.
rest. I really did not rest until after picture lock.
Gotcha. I mean, you had to mail it out to your editor who's in New York. How was it like collaborating? Because obviously he was editing in his space. Did you like fly over? Did you do it over Zoom? And how much of like input did you put in for all the cuts you guys did?
Carter had the footage and he was AEing his stuff, so I didn't need to be there. We wanted to get to rough cut one before I flew over. What Kyle and I were doing was we were strategizing and prepping for festivals. We were straight into marketing.
Gotcha. Wow. So, I mean, you talk about there's a deadline for the festivals. From what I know, there's like different festivals have deadlines throughout the entire year. So, how did you know what was the deadline for you to go into festivals?
We knew that we wanted Cinequest. We knew we wanted Newport Beach. And we said, okay, those were realistically what we're going to go for. So let's try and hit
Mm,
those early deadlines because the early deadline fees are cheaper. And, when you're on a budget, you're like, let's go
right.
cheap.
Of course. Yeah.
In a way, when you Google those, well, you go on Film Freeway and you look at those deadlines, you don't have to decide the deadlines yourself. That work is done for you. You can see, okay, this is what
Mm,
we can hit.
right. How did you know like which were the festivals you wanted to hit? Like, did you have a person to help you for that?
No, we wanted California. We wanted
Oh,
our
interesting.
demographic to be California, NorCal, and Southern Cal because that's where our networks are. And our goal for this movie was to get funding for the next movie. And we all just so happen to live in California. So we're like, all right, let's make this a California movie because it was shot in California and it was a California tax film, so that was what we were going for.
Wow, gotcha. What was it like marketing on social media for you, trying to, build up hype? What did you learn from that process?
I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. That's what I learned. I was like following treads, running around like a headless chicken, posting everything anywhere. We did the official shit, like a teaser trailer and behind the scenes and, deleted scenes and all that. And it was fine. It was fine, but we weren't really outreaching beyond our immediate demographic and people being like, cool, you made a movie. Great, great, Tiff. Double thumbs up. So what we ended up doing was just, we threw spaghetti at a wall and see what stuck. And what stuck was the Reddit Film Bros, which was so wild. So we got a bit of a following on Reddit, and that's where the majority of our audience is.
Did you have like a marketing director who worked with you, or did you all?
We
What was that process like?
I was the marketing director, for so to say. We ended up getting a publicist after right up until we premiered. So like the week before we premiered, we got a publicist, but everything else was internal. If that makes sense.
Wait, that's so interesting. What was it like acquiring the international distribution?
Difficult, really, really hard. Probably the hardest thing of the entire process. Because it's such an American California movie that it was hard to appeal to anyone, anywhere. For the longest time, our sales agent was like, I don't know, man. And really what did it was Kyle actually came through really hard for international distro. And he managed to secure it. And I think it was, partially due to the Reddit cult film bro following. There were folks in the UK and Canada and Australia and New Zealand that were like, I want to see this movie. And so that helps. That helps.
Right. What was the distribution you guys got?
We went through this company called Premier Ent. So yeah, they covered all the English-speaking territories and ancillary markets. And then we got a separate distro deal for airlines and cruises and hotels. Yeah.
Wait, you said English speaking? So what about like Asia and like the other countries? Like, is there?
Yeah. So from a geopolitical perspective, we got like the Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia, so there's Spanish-speaking territories, French-speaking territories, English-speaking territories, and Mandarin-speaking territories. And then you have random places like Japan and Korea. And so under the English-speaking territories, traditionally it means British colonies. So any Asian country that's been colonized by the Brits, that considers Asian-speaking territories. Now places like China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, really, really difficult. The censorship laws are really, really tight there. And we did not think it would be worth our investment to market there with a very minimal return on that investment, given that we didn't want to change the movie. We didn't want to cut stuff out. We said, hey, I doubt a random person in the middle of Hubei province is going to say, let's watch Trigger Happy. So we were like, there's no market for us out there. Why put in the effort to cut and, change the movie to try and get it there?
I see.
I'm curious though, like just because this movie is very American, like you said, did you ever consider focusing more on domestic distribution and putting more of the resources there, or did you always have international in mind as well?
The majority of our resources went towards domestic distro. We originally dabbled with the idea of doing a short theatrical screening, but we just said, tiny budget, like let's just go straight to streamer. Yeah, we wanted to secure international distro just so we could have more avenues for revenue, essentially, because America's one country and that's one source of revenue, but like the UK, Canada, all these other, it's more countries, more revenue. That's pretty much it. So for financial reasons and for our investors, we said, hey, let's get that global distro, because we got the distro company. It's not like in America, it's not like every state has its own distribution, right? It's one company that covers the entirety of America. And that's your one source of revenue, if that makes sense. So the more
Yeah,
countries, the more revenue.
gotcha. I'm curious, do you know which country outside of North America that the film did the most successful?
The UK.
Mm.
Mm, gotcha. And you talk about how you worked with a sales agent. Like how does that process work? Do you bring them on, like you pay them by the hour, or is it like a friend, or like how long are they involved with this whole process with distribution?
Yeah, it depends on them. So you can either bring on a sales agent and pay them, a weekly whatever rate, or you can have them work on commission, which they take a percentage of the sale, which is what we ended up with, which is ideal, because they're more incentivized and they love the movie enough to take it on to say like, hey, I know I can sell this for my commission.
Gotcha. If someone were to like, finally finish making this film, they've gotten into some festivals, they made their first feature, they're so happy. And what is the route for them to find a sales agent that can help bring this to like audiences and like get them the money back?
This is a really unkosher answer, but LinkedIn. I hate to say it,
Oh, really?
but LinkedIn.
Uh,
And I don't hate to say it. I'm a proud LinkedIn user. Everybody's on LinkedIn. Literally everyone. Anyone you could
right.
possibly think of. You want to find someone at acquisitions at Hulu? Hulu, acquisitions, employees, everybody's on there. And I
Interesting. Okay.
guarantee you have mutuals with those people. So
Right.
that's an incredible place to
Wow.
start.
Okay. Hmm.
Do you cold email them, or how do you go about reaching out?
Yeah. I just click
Mm.
connect and I type in a cute little, hey, and again, I'm not just throwing spaghetti at a wall and see what sticks in this regard. There's strategy here. I'm not just saying like, oh, can I get your advice and shoot the shit? It's like, hey, I'm looking for this distribution with this company in this country. Would love to connect and hopefully there's synergy,
Mm,
because people are
gotcha.
really willing to help you if you have specific requests.
Right. Wait, so what was it like after, you got this distribution? Like what was, I guess, the impact that, all this had for your investors? Like what was the return on investment? Are you still trying to recoup the money you guys spent? How is that like?
Yeah, so we decided on a 5-year recoupment period. So we
Mm,
have the next 5 years to recoup, but we are on track and I feel good.
that's nice. Wow. How do you like, because, when you're offering them this business plan in the beginning, I'm assuming part of that would be, hey, you should be able to make roughly this much more back from what you like percentage wise from what you give. How do you know roughly how much, or how do you have the confidence that it will make them the money back?
You don't. That's the honest answer.
Uh-huh.
Just like any startup or any venture backed, you don't know. But you do the
Right.
fucking best you can and you get as much predictions as possible in the sense that you get a sales agent up front, which we did not do, which I highly recommend doing, to crunch the numbers for you. To say, hey, all right, this is a tier blank movie. If you end up getting this star, then it's going to sell in these territories. If you don't end up getting this star, then it will sell in these territories. So you at least have a trajectory of what to expect. Every investor that invests their hard-earned money into something understands it might just fly out the window. That is the nature
Mhm.
of venture-backed businesses, especially film, which is an extremely high-risk investment. So what it comes down to is them trusting you as the director or the producer or the EP to handle their money right. Because you are essentially, you
Mm,
become the money person. They trust you with
right.
hundreds of thousands of dollars and eventually multi-millions of dollars, right? That's a huge
Mm,
responsibility
yeah.
to have. So if you are organized and you are tight with your structure, your workflow's on point, your scheduling is on point, your deadlines are hit, that's the best that you can do. So whatever you can do in the best of your ability within your control is all that really matters. Because everybody's not
Mm,
stupid and everyone knows, all right, if I invest in this, yeah, there's a probability I might not get it back, but I trust the person that I'm investing in to do everything within their power to make sure that my money goes where it needs to go.
Mm.
What
Wow.
are three
Yeah.
things that you do to either build that trust or project that confidence to a potential investor?
Again, it comes down to your deck. It comes down to how strong your deck is and how confident you feel in terms of the market. You have to study the market. You have to study, AFM releases a report every year of who's buying what in what country and what genres. All the data and
Mm.
the numbers are online, right? Like the internet it is so easy to find things now with the beauty of the internet than it was, 20 fucking years ago. So making sure that you feel good about your business proposal and you have up to date numbers and you've done the research and you can cite these things and you feel confident with the evidence that you're presenting. Think of it as a legal case, right? Your evidence needs to be tight. And once you feel confident in that
Right.
evidence, then you can go forth and jump into one of the riskiest investments you're ever going to jump into.
Gotcha. And you graduated from USC Film School a while ago, and I am curious. First of all, did you think 10 years or however many years later that film school is worth it? And I guess if you were going back to before you got into film school, would you have taken the same path?
Yeah, film school's worth it.
Nice.
Not only because you are collaborating with like-minded peers, and it is obviously a massive community of film kids that there aren't many of. It gives you structure and passion and opportunities to get yourself started. You go to film school, they give you the resources to make a film. They give you sound stages, they give you cameras, they give you lighting, and you're with incredible other passionate people that can help bring everything to life. So films,
Mm,
you don't need film school. Nobody needs film school, but there's the difference. To me, film school is like going to a restaurant and getting omakase versus a la carte. Film school is everything's
mm,
available for you, omakase style. You don't got to think about it or do any sort of mental labor to get the courses. But no film school, then you
right.
got to pick and choose from a menu of like a cheesecake factory level menu where you have to put in that extra mental labor to strategize.
Hmm.
Gotcha.
Speaking of that, like for someone who doesn't go to film school or doesn't have plans to go to film school, say after graduating high school, or even someone who wants to transition into filmmaking without film school, what would be your piece of advice to help them get what film school gets them?
And again, the beauty of the internet is that you can look everything up. I would look at UCLA, USC, NYU, Chapman, and look at what their curriculums are. If you want to get into
Mm,
animation, look at the curriculums of what kind of like classes that they're teaching for your age and your demographic, and then get on YouTube and do it yourself. Or,
mm.
like again, the menu of options is all available online on these university websites, on these film school websites. Just pick and choose what you think will be best for you and your career. Yeah, it's extra mental labor and extra steps, but that's a great place to start.
Mm, gotcha. And what are some of your classmates from your class back in the day? What are they doing now? Are there any people you're still connecting with?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that I still connect with and I still hang out with. I mean, college is just one of those times where you have like friends for life. Most people are still in
Mm,
entertainment, and then some people have left. So I think that's the natural progression of it all. Um, However, I don't know many directors of my year group that are uh, directing. There's maybe like two of us, three,
wow.
and then some really dope powerhouse writers, some really dope producers, and everybody else is sort of in the agency management lit world. The execs, a lot of studio execs. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's cool. I mean, I'm sure these connections could go super far for your other projects. Also, speaking of, production companies and stuff, tell me a little bit about, is it West 34th Productions?
West 36.
36. Okay. So close. But yes, West 36 Productions. I believe you told me it was based on the street that you guys lived in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so funny. I mean, because I live on West 37th, but
Ah,
yeah.
hell yeah. Well, West 36 started as a business account for me and Kyle to filter money through so we wouldn't get personally sued, if that makes any sense. I
Oh,
don't think
interesting.
we
Okay.
dream of becoming studio executives or production company per se. I think we're happy being directors and producers. And this was just a really nice vehicle, an LLC, to be able to separate our funds, especially when we were um, making shorts out of school, you know.
Gotcha. So, what was it like, like what do you think today, what do you think it takes to be a freelance director? Because that is, I mean, from your cohort, I'm sure when you guys all got in, maybe even half the class wanted to be directors and now only two. So, what do you think it takes to be someone like that?
I think it's just a choice, man. It really is. You wake up every day and you choose to be a director, just like you choose to be a real estate agent or you choose to be a lawyer. It doesn't take anything except for really a tremendous amount of passion. If you wake up every day and you feel physically debilitated by not actively pursuing your passion, then that's a sign that you should be directing. Um, anyone. I believe anyone is capable of becoming a director. Truly. There's no singular personality trait or skill or talent that cannot be taught or earned or learned. It is simply a
Mm.
choice.
Wow. And, being a director, it's hard at first financially, right? So, what are some ways for someone like who's aspiring to be a professional director in the studio maybe one day? How can they sustain themselves until they get that first feature made and things going?
Yeah, my biggest piece of advice is focus on a technical skill that can translate to being a department head. So,
Mm.
editor, DP, production designer, head makeup, head costume.
Do you ever feel like, if someone, let's say, choose to be a DP, that it would take a lot of time away from their creativity, maybe, to not be able to direct? Do you ever feel like that?
Sure. But I also think, when you are a DP, you are a director of photography. So you are getting to operate on set in a director role esque. I just think it's
Mm,
having a technical skill that is a department head is closer to being a director, right? You're within reach of directing versus being in the mailroom at an agency, which would get you closer to being a producer, or
mm,
being an assistant to a writer, which will get you a writer's assistant, which will get you closer to being in the writer's room. So it's really get a technical skill that is closer to the top job that you want.
mm. Gotcha. Wow. No, that's a really good idea, actually. Um, and now also talking a little bit about like the mental aspects of being a director, like because obviously directing is tough. How do you deal with like, for example, like self-doubt that I'm sure everyone in a way has to go through? Like, how do you know that you're doing the right thing, you're on the right path?
That's a really great question because so many directors, including myself, go through the cycle of imposter syndrome and then a really severe God complex and then like back and forth. No one fucking knows what they're doing. Take comfort in that.
Mm.
Even like the 50-year-olds that I know that are studio executives doing big things don't know what the fuck they're doing. Every human being is on an equal playing field in terms of that, right? And as I said earlier, your biggest competition, your biggest enemy, your biggest hurdle is you. And in those moments where you are feeling self doubt and you are feeling like an imposter and you are questioning who you are, God damn it, you're alive. You're human. And that's part of the human experience, right? We all need to make
Mm,
it to the end somehow, right? And that end is death. And everything that you're experiencing from the negative to the positive is just all part of why we're in this reality and we're experiencing this reality to the fullest. And I would say so much of being a director is being able to understand human psychology and bring worlds to life. And how are you supposed to build worlds and let people go places they've never been before without experiencing the full spectrum from the rock bottom to the top of the mountain, right? So in moments of self-doubt, there's no point pushing it away or repressing it. It's about accepting how you feel. You know, if you're sitting there and you're feeling self-doubt, yeah, it's okay to say out loud, like, yo, I'm feeling insecure right now. I'm feeling like I'm not good enough and I'm not feeling confident. And that's fucking okay because I'm fucking human and I feel alive.
Wow, yeah. That
What
was
are
very
some
encouraging.
what are some action items that one can take to maybe steer towards confidence again?
Confidence to me isn't like a sense of like outward gusto or macho ness. Confidence is acceptance and accepting the situation that you're in and then making the choice to either stay in it or get out of it. And
Mm,
so, you know, if I am in a rut, right, and I am in a level of self-doubt and confidence, you know, and sitting there feeling insecure, the confident thing to say is, yeah, I feel this way. And I'm going to decide in 5, 10, 20 hours, minutes, whatever, months, that I'm going to change. Or I'm going to accept that I feel this way and live through this. And that's a confident thing to say, right? So confidence is ultimately acceptance of yourself.
right. So also, maybe I don't know if you experienced this, but a lot of times when I'm on social media, I see people doing really cool things, really awesome stuff. So how do you not like compare yourself to your peers and seeing what they're doing?
I essentially, and maybe this is like an only child thing, but I've never ever really compared myself to other people because it never clicked in me to do that. Like I think people who have
Mm.
siblings do, that naturally is there. That's never clicked for me. But if I were in a situation and I did see, you know, someone winning accolades and like putting it out there, my this is, I mean, and this is kind of a Machiavellian thing to say, and people I think might disagree with me and might say, Tiff, that's a little opportunistic. My answer is, damn, that person's part of my network.
Right. Yeah.
That person got Sundance. That means I am one degree away from a programmer at Sundance that can move the needle.
Mm.
Let's go.
Wow.
Community.
Wow. Right. That's a really good point. Wow. I've never heard that before. Also, talking a little bit about what are some of the things you're working on now? Like, what did Happy bring, like opportunity wise to you?
Well, Trigger Happy brought a lot of opportunities in the sense that we're gearing up for the next movie. I can't give too much detail about it, but making your first feature does open a good amount of doors, and through the proper
Nice.
channels. Yeah. Um,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
which is you know, I can't ask for more. This is part of the next hurdle, which is the second feature, the sophomore feature, which opens doors, but I'm like, oh, we're in a different room now. All right, ladies, let's fucking go. It's a different, bigger room. It's a tougher room. And it's hard to describe because I'm starting again, so it's like the development. We're back into development. So that's sort of the biggest thing that's come out of Trigger Happy. And then obviously, you know, the day-to-day directing opportunities like YouTube channels and various commercials and music videos here and there, which is like fine, but not the focus.
Hmm.
Right.
What's something you take away from directing Trigger Happy to the future projects that you're working on, including, commercials and the second feature?
5 years of experience under my belt. That's the big thing. But the exciting new challenge of international production, which is what this next one is going to be. So we're moving outside of the U.S. and we're co-proing it, and that's going in with like understanding tax rebates, government funding, film commissions. That's a whole different world. And you know, not one movie is made the same. And even within the world of movies, I'm like, oh my God, the structure of financing and equity and is completely new. It's like a whole new different startup, which is so exciting. Like, I live for this shit. This is like the riveting part of filmmaking where you're like, yeah, okay. Like, it's like putting puzzle pieces together and being creative in that logistical way before you, because it's like, let's get through the bullshit, right? To get to the fun part. And the faster I can get through the bullshit, the closer I will be to the fun part. But the
What do
bullshit's
you think
also
is the
fun.
fun part? Right.
Well, the fun is pre-production through to post. That's the summer camp. That's what you live for. But leading up to all of that, the development, the prep, the fundraising, all of that, that's it's so bureaucratic and so political and so chaotic and mindfucky, and nobody knows what they're doing, but it's also so fun because that's where you get to see your collaborators in the most high-risk stress environments, which is how you know.
Wow, right. Are you working with a similar team, or is it new people you're working with?
Some new people, some similar, some same.
Gotcha. Also, another big part of a director's career is getting representation to bring them work. How are you approaching that, I guess?
Well, I'm signed by Zero Gravity Management. Shout out to Gavin and Najib, who are my team. I love them so much. They actually reached out to me at the premiere of the proof of concept before we actually made the feature. They saw the proof of concept and they were like, this child, this kid, something. She got something on her radar. And then not long after the proof of concept, they were like, we'd love to sign you. And I was like, hell yeah, let's go. So that was huge. But one thing about representation that I think people need to remember is they're your team. You're not their team. So don't come in with the expectation of they're going to get you jobs and they're going to like do everything for you. Bitch, they're going to do 10% of the work. Okay? They're only getting 10 to 15% commission. You got to do 90 to 85 to 90% of the work. Okay? So you run them and you decide, hey, you put in the mental labor to say, hey, I want to meet with this company, this company, this company, and this company, and I want to pitch to these people. You do the 10% and get me those meetings. But I already did the mental work to research what companies I want to meet, to research the people I want to talk to, if that makes sense. Yeah. Right. Same with like commercials and music videos and stuff. I'm like, I want to work with Taylor Swift. I'm throwing it out there. The probability of that very low since she directs her own stuff now. But that's the thing. It's like, I want to work with these state people, and then you figure out how to get me that. You do the LinkedIn.
How has signing Zero Gravity helped you get more opportunities?
Well, they've been opening a lot of doors for this next movie. So it's being able to enter these rooms with Zero Gravity as the middleman.
That's awesome. Yeah. And, we talked a lot about financing and problem solving and, how to make films easier, how to make them cheaper, how to get from A to B faster. And one of the ways to do that is technology. And one of the biggest topics of discussion right now is artificial intelligence. So I am curious, what do you think about the role of AI in the entertainment industry at large? And how do we navigate a world in which AI exists and is very much having an impact on the industry?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, it's not going anywhere. And you have to accept that. It's only going to get bigger and better and more powerful. And the more you resist to change, the more you're going to get left behind. Change is good. Obama said that. So I think AI is an incredible tool to be able to expedite the process of filmmaking in terms of the technical workflow, if that makes sense. The beauty of the human brain is that we still get to dictate the artistry and the creativity and the innovation behind what AI is capable of producing. Are people going to lose jobs? Inevitably. Same thing happened when we went from, TV to film, radio to TV. Unfortunately, that is something we have to accept and things are going to happen. But the best that we can do is adapt, understand how it works, take some AI filmmaking classes, educate yourself, and get ahead of the curve and understand the technology that's literally here now, and be able to put on your God complex hat and control it.
Right. Sweet. Thank you. And also, something we do on this show is that the previous guest leave the current guest a question. And the previous guest asked the question, what is your top 5 fast food places?
Does fast casual count? Or does it have to be
Sure.
fast? Okay. Well, we love Red Lobster.
Mm.
Big fan. In-N-Out, incredible. I also love Bojangles. It's a southern thing.
Okay.
Love Bojangles. Church's Chicken, next level shit. Really, really good. And look, I have a soft spot for Yoshinoya.
Oh, nice. Feeling so hungry hearing these names.
No, me too. Tiffany, so for our listeners, what's something they can do today to bring them closer to making their first feature?
Well, everybody's in different stages of their feature filmmaking process, right? So whether you got to write your script, whether you got to make some changes, whether you got to get a producer on board, whether you got to get feedback, start. Fucking start. Give yourself an hour. Set it on your phone. Hour. Work on your feature and do it just for an hour. And that'll hopefully, the more you work on that and the more you just fucking start, then the more you're going to feel good about it.
Sweet. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for coming on our show today. It's great having you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was great. This was so fun.
Thank you so much, Tiffany.